Hello, welcome in and welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads, and this is my silly sailor Kylie, and we are ready to cruise our way into our May TBR. I am very excited for May because May brings us another installment of Escape the Readathon, the super creative, always a ton of chaotic fun readathon from Lexie with Books with Lexie. And this year I am on Team Medium. And this year's theme is the Orange Cat Cruise. We're all getting on a cruise ship and only one team is making it back off. So you better believe I have a lot of reading plans in mind. With this readathon, we go in knowing what 6 of the prompts are, and then every time we reach a certain milestone, we get more prompts. So you kind of have to drop everything and switch your reading plans around just a bit. Although the prompts are vague enough, usually you can fit a lot of stuff into them. So I'm starting off the month playing my Promptball game as usual, and I am hopeful that whatever books I get out of here will work for the readathon as well. I'll also make sure I have at least one book in mind for each of the known prompts to start things off. And as always, I have quite a few other reading plans that I will try to address as well. And we will totally build a completely reasonable TBR by the end of this video. 100%, without a doubt. Very reasonable. So, without further ado, let's talk about how we did on last month's Promptball TBR. Sorry, Kylie's behind the camera and her hat is still on. I forgot to take it off and it is now on the side of her face and she's looking adorable. But she got her treat, so she's a happy girl. The stack that I made for last month actually went pretty well. As of filming this, I just have 2 books to go. I am about a third of the way through Towers of Midnight by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan, and that's one I'm reading a little bit each day so that I'll be done by the end of the month because it is a book I need for Magical Readathon and for my TBR. The other book that I need to finish up is The Hunting Moon by Susan Dennard. This is one that's out of sight, out of mind a little bit because I don't own a physical copy, but it's only 272 pages and I do own the audiobook, so I have no doubt I will get to it. There's more than a week left in the month as I'm filming this. So I'm going to go ahead and consider my TBR completed, and let's hope that the game is nice this month because last month we got a lot of extra books. And without knowing all the prompts for this month, I'm hopeful that we get some good prompts. So let's go ahead and get into it. As always, we're going to start with 5 quarters, 5 prompts. Any duplicate colors we get results in an extra pull, and anything beyond that, who knows what the game can throw at us. Okay, my 5 initial quarters, and let's go. Starting off with a green bowl. All right, this one is a nice one. It is to read one of my R fantasy books. So the first prompt was to read a book for our fantasy specifically. And for this one, I'm going to get a short story collection onto my TBR because that's something I'm trying to do each month. And I'm going to put Lost Places by Sarah Pinsker onto the TBR. This is the author who wrote one of my favorite story collections, Sooner or Later, Everything Falls into the Sea. So it's one I really need to get to. I think this came out in 2023 and I had it pre-ordered. So I feel like it needs to be on my list. Quarter number 2. Blue. This one also works quite well for our fantasy. We've got, for Pop Sugar, a book where a character is an immigrant or a refugee. Next up, we have a character who is a immigrant or a refugee. And when I pulled this prompt, I said this was perfect for our fantasy as well because our fantasy had a square on the board to have a fantasy with a main character who is an immigrant or a refugee. And the book I picked for that spot on the board, which I will also pick for this prompt, is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. This one is a gorgeous Fairy Loot edition, and it's one I've been a little wary of because I think it is meant to be cozy, which isn't always for me, but it says our main character is fleeing a troubled past and they're an immigrant fortune teller roaming the dusty countryside with only her mule for company, telling small fortunes for small prices. And I think there's a little bit of maybe found family type of an aspect in here. I don't know, but it's thankfully not too long, and it's one that I think I may be buddy reading with some folks who were planning to read this in April, but I don't think anyone's started yet. So maybe this will be an early May type of book. Ball number 3 is a yellow. It was going well. And then this one's helpful. We have a mood read, but it also means we have to add an extra ball. My next prompt is for a mood read, and this also got me an extra prompt thrown in. I've decided that I'm going to truly treat this like a mood read. Normally I might pick a book, but since we're going into Escape the Readathon, where we don't know what all the prompts are going to be as the readathon continues, I think having a mood read in my pocket where I can just pick whatever works for a given prompt in the moment will work out perfectly, and I can just kind of pick up whatever I'm in the mood to read at that time. Ball number 4, we have another green. Okay, this isn't bad. So prompt number 4 is from Around the Year in 52 Books, and this is to read something you would consider a comfort read. And then the next prompt was to read a book that you'd consider a comfort read, and this was very open to interpretation. I wasn't quite sure what to go for, but I did decide that I'm going to be reading A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. I really enjoy T. Kingfisher's books and writing, and they are a comfort zone for me when it comes to fantasy and fantasy horror. I don't know a lot about this one other than it's just such a pretty copy. I had to pick it up. From what I remember, there is a mother-daughter relationship in here, and their family is less than quote-unquote normal. And I don't know much beyond that, but I am eager to finally be getting to this one. And 5 is red. All right, this one is to use a randomized letter for the start of the title. My next prompt was to randomize a letter, and the title is meant to start with that letter. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I will show you the spin, and you can see why my initial thought was to immediately just respin. But I did find something that will work with a Z. And that is the Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks. This is the author of World War Z. This is one I received from Del Rey. It's got illustrations, it's got weapon information, it's got different survival strategies for a zombie apocalypse. So I don't know. I'm intrigued to check this one out. I'm not sure if it's necessarily one I'm going to read cover to cover, to be perfectly honest, but ignoring the in this case, because he's such a hard letter, this definitely works for the prompt. And then for the one that we got an extra ball with our mood read prompt, we got yellow. Okay, for Around the Year in 52 Books, it's a book that has been longlisted for the Tournament of Books in any year. I'm going to have to research this because I don't remember off the top of my head what exactly this is, so we will figure that out. The next prompt was from Around the Year in 52 Books, and it was to read a book that has been longlisted for the Tournament of Books. And I was not familiar with the Tournament of Books, so I did a little bit of Googling, and what this is, it sounds really fun, is that every March they nominate books for best books. And this is something they then have judges choose which book moves on to the next bracket. And there is a list generated by the Around the Year in 52 Books crew. And I went scrolling through that list trying to find the first book I could find that I actually owned. And I have read a number of the books that I really enjoyed that were on this list. So it's something that maybe I need to keep more of an eye out for in the future. I'll try to remember to put some links down below. But the first book that I found on the list that I own and haven't read yet is The Wedding People by Alison Espet. This is one that I picked up from Book of the Month. It was one of the ones that I think was nominated for their Book of the Year, and therefore one of the ones we could get for free if you are a BFF with Book of the Month. This is one that I also own on audio. And it's one that I've heard a lot of really good things about. We have a woman who basically crashes a wedding. She's the only person staying at this destination wedding location who is not part of the wedding itself. And she winds up getting sucked in. I think it's got some heavy ending topics in here from what I recall. It didn't make it past the first round in the voting. And I hadn't heard of the other books it was up against. So I will be curious kind of to see how I feel about it. And with that, my original set of prompts got me 2 greens and 2 yellows. So 2 duplicates is not bad in the grand scheme of things, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 2 extra prompts. We got blue, not that it matters at this stage. We aren't counting these as doubles. For the 52 book club, it's to read a book told in a non-chronological order. The next prompt I got was from 52 Book Club, and this one is to read a book told in non-chronological order. And I didn't have anything in mind initially for this, and I went through a list and wasn't finding anything I hadn't read that really was piquing my interest. I decided to go for a little bit of a twist on the prompt. I think this definitely works, but it's a little bit of a unique take on it. And that is to read Can You Survive the Zombie Apocalypse by Max Brawlier. I may very likely be saying that wrong, but this is a choose your own adventure book in the zombie apocalypse. So it's very much told out of order because let's say you wind up on page 167. This one gives you options to go to page 38 or page 108. So you definitely are bouncing back and forth in the book. And it was a add-on when I was purchasing something else off of Pango, and they had this in the shop as well. And for just a couple bucks, I figured I might as well capitalize on the shipping I was already paying. And the last prompt for May, red again doesn't matter, but just cause. And this one is a poll pick. And then the final Promptball got us a poll pick. And I can't tell you what this book is going to be yet, but I have put up a poll on my Bookstagram to help me pick out what my poll book will be. And I'll show you which books I put into that poll. From Stuart Turton, I have The Devil in the Dark Water. This is, I think, historical, a mystery set at sea. It seemed like it would be a fun one to read while we are on this chaotic cruise adventure for Escape the Readathon. I have Never the Roses by Jennifer K. Lambert. This is an ARC copy that I received from Bramble. It doesn't come out till June, so I don't have it at the absolute top of my ARC stack to get to, but it's one that I definitely could help myself out with reading early. I have The Usual Desire to Kill by Camilla Barnes. This is about a family. That's really what I know about it, and there's llamas on the cover, which is what caught my eye. This is a gifted copy I received from Scribner. And lastly, I have another ARC, and that is One Yellow Eye by Lee Radford. And this is a gifted copy I received from Gallery Books. And this is set in a world that has been plagued by a infection, and our main character, her husband gets this, and when the world eliminates all the infected people, she is keeping him secret. This one doesn't come out till July, but again, it would be a good one to go ahead and read a little bit early. So with that, I will go ahead and insert a picture of the poll results and what the winner is that I will be reading. So this is my Promptball TBR plus a mood read plus whichever book wins the poll. So not looking too bad, but of course there is always more. Okay, looking at what else I definitely have to read in May for Faith Follow Along, which is the Catch Up Book Club's current read along. We do have the next live show for that in mid-May, and that one will be to read Ruin by John Gwynne, which I am really, really looking forward to picking up and really have been enjoying my reread of this series, but it is a chunky book, so I definitely have to get some work done on this one. I may start it in April. We'll see how soon I finish Wheel of Time, which needs to come first, but then I will be diving into this. And for the Classics Buddy Read that I help co-host over on Instagram, we are going to be reading One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey, and this is a very low-key, casual buddy read. We have a chat at the end of the month on Instagram to discuss the book. If you're interested ever in joining in with any of these, please feel free to message me, and I will definitely get you added. For Buzzwordathon, which is the year-long challenge from Kayla at Books with Lala, we have 2 prompts. One is to have 2 or 2, depending on how many O's you put in that, in the title. And for that one, I am going to be hitting it with A Sorceress Comes to Call. And then the cover prompt this time is for eyeballs on the cover. And for this one, I will definitely be picking up Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin. This is a release coming out in April, I believe, and I do have a copy coming to me, and I am really looking forward to finding out more about this. It sounds a little bit like Little Shop of Horror, which is always a fun time, so I am looking forward to getting this one. And then for Escape the Readathon, we do know 6 of the prompts before we go on board the ship, and these are the prompts that we're going to be reading to unlock the various rooms where we're going to get more surprise prompts. But going into the readathon, I wanted to make sure I had at least one book in mind for each of the rooms on this ship, so let's look at those. For the dining room, I need a book that matches my current outfit, and what match means is up to interpretation. It can be color, it can be vibes, it can be whatever. So for this one, I don't know how much you can tell, but I have a flower shirt on, and I'm going to be going with Nora Roberts' Hidden Nature. This is a gifted copy I received from St. Martin's Press. This one, it's a little bit subtle, but behind the spiderweb on the cover, there are flowers and greenery and all of that, so I'm using that as my match. This one is about a natural resources police officer who winds up getting shot when she walks into a robbery. She has a lot of recovery to go through, but when a woman goes missing, she winds up looking into it. That's really all I know going into this one. I do really enjoy Nora Roberts' writing. It tends to be very cozy, usually a cozy romance in the midst, and I look forward to that. This one is a May release, so it's one I want to get to sooner rather than later during the month. To get into the bar and mix up a good drink, we need to find a genre blend. And for this, I'm going to be reading Harmattan Season. This is by Tochi Onyebuchi, and this is an arc coming out in May as well, and this is one I received gifted from Tor. It is a fantasy world as I understand it, but it's also described as a hard-boiled noir, so a mystery element going on in here, so it should work perfectly. For the theater, we need a popcorn read, and for this one, I'm going to be picking up The Yacht by Sarah Goodwin. This is a boat-based thriller, and thrillers to me always tend to wind up being popcorn reads, sit down in one sitting, just sit and binge, and it sounds like a good time. To get into the indoor pool, we need a book with a double letter in the title, so exactly 2 of the same letter somewhere in the title. And for this one, I am going to be picking up Rot and Ruin because we've got the double R, and I just like the alliteration as well. This is by Jonathan Mawberry, and I really loved Kagan the Damned last year by this author. That was definitely more epic fantasy. This is a zombie story. So I don't know what to expect from this. I haven't heard anyone talk about it, but I immediately put it on my want to read list when I was looking up what else this author had written, since I binge read that whole series with Kagan. So I am eager to find out if I enjoy this one as much. It is the start of another series, so we will see how it goes, but it is pretty large print. I think it should be a quick read and a good one for the pool. For the arcade, we need to find an underrated book. And for this, there's a lot of interpretations you can go with, but I'm going to go ahead and count Lost Places by Sarah Pinsker for this one. It has been out for a couple years now, and it only has 340 some odd ratings as of when I looked it up. It's an indie published book, and I think that's probably part of it, but hopefully this winds up being a hidden gem. And lastly, to get into the gym, although why you want to be exercising when you're on a cruise, questionable. But to get into the room, we need to find a book that we've been putting off. And I have one specifically I've been putting off for this readathon, and that is Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. This is a ship-based fantasy, and as soon as I got an inkling that we were going to be going on a cruise ship for the next escape, I went ahead and already put this one on my TBR for May. So I've been putting it off for this readathon, and I am eager to look into this one. I know some people who have really enjoyed it, some who really haven't, so I look forward to figuring out which way I lean. Every month I do try to get some nonfiction onto my TBR and some short stories. I've already mentioned Lost Places a couple times. That's my short stories priority for the month, but I do have a couple of nonfiction I am hoping to get in. First off, I have Whack Job, A History of Axe Murder. This is by Rachel McCarthy James, and it is pretty much just what the title says. This is a May release, and I have a gifted copy from St. Martin's Press. And then I'd also like to get to Wildfire Days, A Woman, a Hotshot Crew in the Burning American West by Kelly Ramsey. This is a June 17th release, and I have a gifted copy from Scribner. And with the wildfires in LA this past year been so tremendously horrible, I really do kind of want to read more and be more informed. So I think I'm going to go ahead and leave my TBR there for now. I do definitely plan on another Arc Attack in the not too distant future, so I'm sure I will add a few more in addition to the ones that I've already talked about here. You might have picked up on a couple of themes with some of the books that I added to my TBR and the poll and those types of things for some vlog ideas. There's a few more books for those, but I will surprise you with those later. And overall, I want to leave a little bit of room in my reading to make sure I can prioritize the prompts for Escape the Readathon as they come out. Let me know in the comments below, are you participating in Escape the Readathon? If you are, what team are you participating on? Which of the rooms are you the most excited to read the prompt for? Or let me know in general, what are you looking forward to reading in May? I'd love to hear all the things. And if you've made it this far and you don't have anything to comment, go ahead and leave me a cat emoji for the orange cat cruise that we're taking for Escape the Readathon. If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in more of my escape reading, my thoughts on some of these books, and my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.